What's up, Rockstars? Welcome to the definitive list. This is the top 10 board games that were crowdfunded in 2022. There's no arguing. This is the top ones. We're going to be talking about the best of the best, the most successful ones right now. Now, as you guys know, I love Into the AM. I wear their shirts all the time. Here's one of my favorites. I haven't worn this one in a while. It's a little much, but today I was feeling it. I had a ton of errands to run, and I will tell you what, people love these shirts. Everybody asked me where I got them. Just the other day, I was giving blood, getting my wellness checkup, you know, that sort of stuff at the doctor's office. And the lady was like, that is one of the coolest shirts I've ever seen. Where did you get it? She wanted to know the name, the website, all of that, because it is great. There is a New Year's sale going on, up to 80% off, and I have a 10% coupon code that'll be on the screen and linked down in the description below, of course, to save an extra 10% on top of the sales. That's right, you can save up to 90%. It is a huge sale, and they have some fantastic new stuff. I'm going to show you some of the new stuff real quick, and then we're going to get to that list. Now, one thing they do is they hustle. They are constantly making new designs, and I must say, I am always impressed. Of course, we have a Skull Buster tee that looks super sweet. The Lunar Landing is a personal favorite of mine. These show up really great. Often they glow in the dark, actually, too, but they look great in this daylight. We have a Clockwork Lion. I love this. They had the Clockwork out. Now they got the Lion, and of course, the Fallen King tee. Guys, I want to be getting a shipment of these in here soon, so you're going to see some new ones that I can show off. They are fantastic. The print quality is great. The fit feels fantastic. The overall sizes definitely fit normal people. I really appreciate that, of course. Yeah, this Deep Space hoodie, freaking sweet. I mean, it's just great stuff, guys. So feel free to check them out. Again, that's linked down below. 80% off sale right now with an extra 10% off using my coupon code. That is linked down in the description below. Guys, thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting Into the AM, who helps support this channel so that this channel can be as great as it can be for you guys. With that out of the way, let's dive in. There is some huge things. Now, I'm actually going to go from the top to the bottom because I think you all know what the top one is, but I want to see if you guys can guess which ones didn't make the cut, because there was a lot I opened up and like, oh, this was a huge campaign. And then I find out like it didn't make the top 10 at all. It may have not even made the top 15. And so that was kind of interesting to me. But to put things in perspective, 2022 was huge. It also brought us the very biggest Kickstarter ever. This was by Brandon Sanderson. He's a well-known author that did like the Mistborn series, Stormlight Archive, stuff like that. He made 4 surprise books during COVID because he writes an insane amount, and gained $41,754,153 for his efforts already just on the crowdfunding, minus about 5% because of the whole Kickstarter thing. But that is putting into perspective how big these can get, noting that that is the biggest ever. So just as an FYI, I wanted to kind of open with that because it was interesting that it happened this year. So in this year, with the highest funded ever, this is what our board games did. And one thing I am limiting this is I am not including collectible card games. With the recent upheaval of Pokemon cards and the general bonanza that is in Magic the Gathering, stuff like that, a lot of people have kind of moved almost from like cryptocurrency stuff to like investing in early copies of collectible card games in the hopes of turning a profit. In other words, if you have a few extra if you have like $300 extra, $500 extra, a couple thousand, whatever, sometimes some people go to like Las Vegas and blow it there. Other people buy a whole bunch of an unknown collectible card game in the hopes that one day that goes 10, 100-fold how much they invested into it, because it's the next Pokemon or something like that. It doesn't even have to be that big to turn a profit either. So it's just kind of an investment versus actual board games. So I wanted to just limit it to like the board games, which don't see a lot of that. So as an FYI, if you saw a collectible card game and it made more than anything on this list, that is why it's not included here. That was kind of a cut I made because I don't want to even get into the, is that legitimate, is it not kind of business. It's hard to tell what everybody did, but I remember there was one that had somebody put in $10,000 into theirs, and they actually had an issue and even refunded it. They didn't want the $10,000 because then they're relying on one creator, and it's a mess. So With that out of the way, that long disclaimer, Marvel Zombies was obviously the biggest one. This was a zombicide game made with Marvel Zombies IP by CMON. It was definitely the biggest one this year, by and large, at $9,032,583 gained. That is massive. Now, there was a lot of buzz about this leading up, of course. And I even heard stuff like 13 million plus kind of thrown around casually because people were expecting this to break 10. It didn't quite break 10, but 9 million is not a small amount of money either, even for CMON. So, and of course that's not all profit, right? They actually have to make the game and ship it out and do all that stuff too. But this game was massive in scale, massive in scope, massive in marketing tactics, business tactics, all that sort of stuff. There's a whole slew of oddities there. I actually have Marvel Zombies right there, but it's a retail version. I enjoyed it actually quite a lot. It's a lot of fun, and it was like $35 or some junk like that. It was super cheap. So, anyway, yeah, with that out of the way, let's go in and do kind of maybe the not so obvious ones. I think all of you knew this one was coming, but that was definitely the number one. The number two was actually, sorry for my voice there. Wow, I just hit puberty. So the second most funded campaign was Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin over on GameFound. This was not quite the highest that's ever been funded on GameFound, but it's pretty high up there. This was actually a sequel to Tainted Grail, which of course sold extremely well in the days before GameFound. And so a lot of people were actually expecting this to also be a little bit higher. But I think a lot of people just have a lot of, buzz in mind. And I don't think people appreciated exactly how much 2022 hurt so many of us, especially with the inflation and stuff like that. The fact that these are as big as they are in 2022 just tells me that if this had been launched in like 2019, 2020, dear Lord, these would have been even higher. But 4.4 is very commendable, very well done. 23,000 backers. Fantastic. Again, the number 2 spot here. So, did very well. And it's amazing, in my opinion, to see GameFound hit the number 2 spot in this list. And that's quite telling on the strength that GameFound can provide. It's right there at number 2, guys. Now, we'll see how many actually end up in this list, but number 2 is pretty commendable. Number 3 goes to Archon Studio, and that was for Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. They made €3,834,885. That's around 4 million-ish, a little bit higher, right? At today's rate, I don't remember what the rate was then. It wasn't too long ago, though, so I'm pretty safe, I think, in that. Regardless, it's definitely, I think, the number 3. And it's just, it's kind of amazing. Archon Studio, if you don't remember, started out actually at one point getting like lawyers involved with CMON. Like there was all of this kind of bad stuff. They did not make good games at all, or even really good products. Like they had pretty minis, but that's about it. And to see them now hit the number 3 most funded board game, and again, not for the minis, but for the board game, is just a testament to the turnaround that companies had in these last few years. It's been crazy to see. It really has. And I've played some of those older, not so good ones. So it's been wonderful to see them really focus on this as a company and just do better. Again, just a huge hero's journey almost when it comes to where they were versus where they are now. It is really amazing. Number 3 spot. And this is now the second IP game in 3 listed so far. So just that's a thing, and it's going to keep going. Speaking of which, number 4 is Slay the Spire, the board game. Again, another IP. This is based off of a video game. The video game is a card game. So this is just like a physical version of the video game. And I mean that in every sense of the word. When it's just using cards in the video game, obviously making the cards in real life isn't too much of a stretch. So they did add 4 players. There's a few changes there. Let's see, $3,939,337 from 29,661 backers. Very, very well done. This is from Contention Games, which again is just an explosion of success and super cool to see people so passionate about it. I've actually played the video game. It is very, very fun. I really love any kind of like poison combo deck. Like it just, I don't know. It's just fun to do. It's a good card gameplay for sure. I would just play the video game myself, but a ton of people are super excited to play this with their friends and family, which is all about board games anyway, right? So yeah, super cool to see this succeed so well, and just shows that, hey, making a great product, making a following, having a community around you is so great. I know I'm thankful for my community. You guys are just awesome, and it's great to see other companies kind of have their own following, or the IP, or the creation that somebody made. It's a wonderful thing to bring all the internet people together. All right, so that was number 4. Number 5, right in the halfway mark, is Elden Ring. They made £3,291,610, and again, it's slightly higher in USD, much closer to a 1-to-1 though than the euro. And yeah, just super impressive. To raise as much as they did for Steamforged games. That's quite a bit lately. They've had I think a few lesser releases, but this one definitely did extremely well. That being said, I feel this one underperformed more than any other thing on this list. The potential there was huge, and they didn't quite get it, but they still managed to get number 5. It's still very commendable. You know, nobody's sneezing at $3.3 million, regardless of anything. So, yeah, well, it could have been a lot bigger for sure. It still had over 10,000 backers, of over 4 million raised in the USD apparently. According to this here. And now I don't know if that's from the late pledge, I'm assuming, because yeah, the 3.2 million pounds certainly doesn't equal 4 million. So they're still doing strong, that's for sure, and it'll have a huge retail presence as well. But yeah, definitely I think could have been even higher, regardless of whatever it did. Could have been more. All right, so now we're on the tail end. Number 6 is Cthulhu Death May Die Fear of the Unknown at $3,426,673 USD. Again, very impressive, over 20,000 backers. That's over double, guys, which shows how expensive some of these are. It's very interesting to see the backer count versus the amount raised. Some games are just more expensive, right? So you could have fewer people, but at a higher price point, stuff like that. But honestly, again, this one, huge. It was the sequel to a very, very, very popular board game that's been around in retail for a while as well. This one was kind of interesting because, again, you would almost feel like it would do even better and be kind of towards the top of the list here, being a well-established IP. It's got Cthulhu. It's got retail presence for a while. It's a second Kickstarter. It's a well-regarded, well-reviewed game. A lot of people love it. A lot of people have a lot of fun with it. I think a lot of people felt like they already had enough. It already had a whole Kickstarter. It had been at retail with expansions for a while. So to get more of it, I'm not sure everybody was ready to jump on that. I know that was kind of my hesitancy as well, on how much more do I really need versus just keep enjoying what I already have, which I think is something we all have to kind of ask ourselves as our collection grows. But still, again, over 3 million raised, guys. All right. Now we are on kind of the home stretch here. So this is number 7, Oathsworn Into the Deepwood, the second edition. Again, it's always noteworthy when a second printing does better than the first. It shows, I think, how well it did. And this did extremely well. $3,236,488 from 22,000 backers. They did a great job on the 1.0, and the second edition, this 2E, which is, I mean, they say second edition, but it's pretty much the same thing. It really is. Yeah, just again, shows how many people want this. This is something that just does not work at retail, really. It's a huge game box, it's a massive narrative, huge production costs. And yeah, that's exactly what these crowdfunding things were kind of meant for, right? So really cool to see that. All right, number 8 is Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. Over 3 million raised, over 22,000 backers, almost the exact same as Oathsworn. And this just, again, is super premium, which is why I think it reached the heights that it did. But the 22,000 backers, almost 23,000, that certainly helped as well. Again, a very big presence in the board game community for a long while. And then they come out with a special edition, and it's run by Awakened Realms themselves. They know how to run a campaign for sure. They did, I think, all the miniature design as well, which is super cool. So yeah, it did extremely well. A lot of people were super excited about this, and I hope it's great for everybody involved. Okay, we only got 2 more spots left, so let's see kind of what made the cut and then we'll kind of discuss at the very end here. Number 9 is Deep Rock Galactic, the board game, making €2,512,409. Again, that will be more in USD, or a higher number in USD. Again, very well, another IP game. This is not the first one. This is like the 5th one in a 10 slot series. So, and again, it's great to see a community kind of rally around that. Almost 20,000 backers. And this just, I mean, it didn't even like, the campaign wasn't even structured well on a lot of these. Like this one, it just doesn't tell you a whole lot about the game. It almost kind of assumes you know it based off the video game. So it's not really even marketed towards new people very well. It's one of those things where everybody just assumes they know what they're talking about. Again, this was a free PlayStation Plus game, I believe. So I played it then, and it's certainly fun. A very interesting take on the kind of 4-player co-op stuff. The dwarves are funny. It has a big following, and yeah, it's cool to see it go to the board game successfully. It's wonderful to see these adaptations actually start to do well. We had a lot of IP games that I don't think were made very well, and now it's starting to look like there's some actual quality IP, like video game to board game translations. And so it's been really nice to see that. Rounding things out is actually, again, GameFound. This is the 3rd one on the list here. Robinson Crusoe Collector's Edition by Portal Games. 17,000 backers, and they made $2,422,728. It was interesting to see that everything was over 2 million in the top 10. We had over 10 campaigns this year that were over $2 million to pick from, and that's again limiting out all card games, like collectible card games, stuff like that, for the sheer fact that I'm not making that call on you know, who's investing for what and how real is this as a board game funding versus you know, financial transaction. But yeah, no, just again, incredible. I believe, didn't Awakened Realms also do the minis for this as well? I think they did. I recognize that texture they put on the render anywhere. So yeah, they did great. It was interesting to see GameFound on 3 of these. Were you surprised that any didn't make the cut that you thought would have perhaps been the top 10? How do you feel about the fact that there's a top 10? We didn't even get to the $1 million raise. Everything is over $2 million raised in a year that I think a lot of people felt was a little lackluster when it comes to the pizzazz that had been leading up to that. A lot of people, a lot of devs I talk about say how well COVID actually did for them when it came to funding. So at least early on, 2019, 2020, even some of 2021, I hear was very, very good as people kind of stayed at home and had a little bit extra money and wanted to kind of shop around and find cool things, and board games seemed like a cool thing. Of course, by the time anything delivers, it's long gone, but you know, that's the joy of these crowdfunding things. So I had a lot of fun going through this list. It was very interesting to see what made the cut. It seemed to me predominantly that this was all established work. A lot of this was either IP-based games, typically based off video games, so like a video game tie-in or some such like that where it brings the community, or already established at retail, second printings, stuff like that, or kind of round 2s of what's already available. And really, that's almost all of these, right? I mean, if you think about it, this one was, 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 and this one. Actually, all 10 were. None of them were like wholly new creations in that sense. They were all based off of some IP or previously established game. And there's a lot, I think, to be said about that, right? That's something quite interesting. And I don't quite know how I feel about that. It would have been nice to have at least one like wholly new creation make it on this list. It would have in other past years. You know, stuff like Tainted Grail was a unique creation, but now it's an established IP. People are aware of it. It's been around for a while, right? And I'm not saying that the board game that they made isn't new, but it's not treading new ground and a wholly unique IP that people aren't already attached to in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, very interesting to see that, I think. And yeah, a lot of these were very expensive games as well. Stuff like the all-in to Marvel Zombies was over $600 before they started charging you shipping, which was a nice surprise. Elden Ring, of course, was really expensive. And you have some that were a little bit cheaper, like Slay the Spire and stuff like that. Oathsworn's expensive, though surprisingly not too much. But yeah, I don't know. It was a fun list to go through. And yeah, the only thing I think that could make it better, perhaps a little bit more GameFound. It would have been nice to have a 50-50. 5 on GameFound, 5 on Kickstarter. Backer Kit didn't have any. The Spirit Island one didn't even break 2 million. Didn't even, in a top 10 list like this, didn't even break 2 million, means he ain't on the list. So yeah, very, very interesting. Let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know what your predictions are for next year's list. Do you think we're going to see a lot more of these IP-based games, sequels to already established things? Or do you think we're going to see some truly unique things? Say that as we see a Batman advertisement right up there, with, I think last I saw, almost 9,000 people following it. So yeah, we'll see where we go in 2023. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for just a wonderful year. For 2022 has been fantastic. I've enjoyed every moment of my interactions with you guys, thick or thin, agree or disagree. It's been a blast. I love doing this. I love covering this crazy industry and these really fun games. So I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Here's to a great 2023. Oh, and before I forget, Into the AM, link down below. Huge sale, up to 90% off. You guys should check it out. Seriously, great stuff. Okay, bye guys.